in my, I was like due by January 6th, and I sent it in like right at the beginning of the year, 2007.
So that's awesome. So now you've been in New York for like 5 years.
Like, I mean, I started school in 2007.
Yeah,
Fall
so
2007.
So now you kind of live this double life as like a producer, drummer, not really jazz anymore. Seems a lot more pop driven,
Well,
or groove driven.
Groove driven, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I went to the school and I just was like kind of sitting around, like looking around, and I'm like, man, everybody here is like, all these drummers, all good players, but it just kind of like you were all into the same thing, and then everybody kind of started to go their own as they began to find themselves.
Right, and
they began
what they're really into.
Yeah, what they're really into, and yeah, like my last couple months in North Carolina, I studied with a drummer, Ivan Hamden, who was like played with Luther Vandross and Shaka Khan, and very like pop R&B, but like very, very on a very professional level, doing TV, playing at the Grammys, all that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of like, even though when I got to New York, I was still like super into jazz, and it that was like my first, kind of like, person that was like kind of, he's my mentor. Like, I go home now and I still visit with him and we talk, and that was my first kind of person that kind of turned me in kind of towards this
things.
On the different things. So
yeah, so there's a ton of different projects you've been involved with. The one I'm most familiar with is Daddy Moich, which I guess is kind of on its way out.
Well, we did kind of, I wouldn't say we disbanded. I would say that when we graduated, we all graduated. And,
at the same time, right?
Well, Colin DeJoseph and Ryan Weiner, Ryan plays guitar and Colin plays keys, graduated the year before I did. And then I had one more year. So we were still able to kind of play, because I was able to book rooms at the school and stuff. And then once I graduated, I went through my thing of like, oh my God, I did 2 months couch surfing, and rehearsing with the Moich wasn't at the top of the top priority. But we just went through a lot of things with Alad Muscatel was our original bassist.
Right. And there's a lot of different, like, what should we do with this band, right?
And that was the main thing with that thing, was there was no leader. We were just a bunch of guys who really loved to play, and we were all into the same music. It was the type of thing where we could walk in and we would be like, yo, let's play that Dr. John tune or something. And Colin would, like, literally play verbatim, and it was just like a good vibe, and all good players, so yeah, there was a lot of things that kind of went on with that band. Mike Wilbur, who currently is playing with Moon Hooch,
right, in Australia right now, isn't he?
I think he's back now. He hit me. He's definitely back, because I talked to him yesterday. But yeah, when he started playing with Moon Hooch, I mean, it just took up a lot of his time, and there was a sense of like the band really wasn't going. We kind of started. I tell you what killed us was playing venues, man. When we would play parties, it was just like people were so into just like, it was just like that. It was a party band, like,
yeah, because you could just groove forever.
We could groove forever, and people could dance. Yeah. And we started playing venues, man. And then we got sucked into what we thought other people wanted to hear. And so that began to turn Mike off, which is totally fine. I mean, Mike was just like, I'm not really into, wanting to play covers. And so we, it kind of went into this downward spiral. Well, not really a downward spiral. We still played for a while. Like they all played on my senior recital.
Right, which was awesome.
And we did a couple shows. Well, we did a show with Brianna Thomas at Rockwood, which was like super, super rehearsed. And it was kind of fun to do because it wasn't like we just got up and jammed. It was very much like we picked very specific tunes. We had a full-blown horn section. It was kind of like, it was really fun to do that because all the players were really good. And it was like, we were able to like, it sounded very professional. And I enjoyed being able to go in and kind of knock out like this like, super tight show with a bunch of good players. And Brianna just, I mean,
being Rihanna.
She just totally destroyed it. I mean, she's such an amazing singer, and we had such a pleasure
no doubt about it.
to work with her. So that band is kind of for the time being hiatus.
Yeah, we'll
Ryan's working on his solo album.
Oh, really?
Which is coming out soon. I'm not sure when, but he's been very busy with that. Colin's been working with me on another project with Mark Hugh.
Oh, let's get into that. Who is Mark Hugh?
Mark Hugh is singer-songwriter from California. I met him through I interned at a recording studio called Rough Magic in Brooklyn, and the lead engineer there, he would let me basically practice in the live room while we were waiting to do sessions, and he heard me, and then one day called me for a session, and then started booking me for sessions. I met Mark Hugh through a session that he booked for me.
And you still play sessions for that studio?
I still play for him. Yeah, they actually recently just moved to The End, which is it's Rough Magic and The End Studios combined.
Where is that?
They're in Greenpoint. I think
okay.
I think the exact address is 13 Greenpoint Ave, which is literally, take the G to like where Manhattan and Greenpoint cross, and you just walk down Greenpoint to the water. It's an amazing studio. They literally just moved there two weeks ago. So,
so you met Mark Hugh.
Met Mark Hugh at their old location. Did the session and then didn't hear from him for like 2 months.
Wow.
And all of a sudden he hits me up, and then this was back in May, and he started taking me out on to record drum tracks for him at these studios. And I would say by October, it was very clear that I had become as invested in this album as he had. I was very much into helping him out. It was still very much his songs, his.
Right, but you definitely feel like you're.
I tracked. We did a session yesterday. Hopefully one of the final sessions of the album. But basically, he began to build a band, and we've been working out. At first, it was just me and him, and I would track the drums.
Does he play anything?
He plays guitar, bass, and he's also very well versed in recording. So we would go out to a studio and track drums on, and he would come home and then have different guys come over and track bass, direct in, and he would do guitars and overdub stuff. Great singer. He was, and so I would track drums, and then like a couple weeks later I'd come back like, this is what and it was like a full blown track. But as he began to build his band, we started working out at Miney Toad Studios, which is in I guess Park Slope area. And
so did you ask Colin to join?
I asked, and that's why I asked Colin. We needed someone to do organ overdubs, and Colin came out and nailed it.
Of course.
And so the band so far consists of me and Colin and this bass player named Josh Brouts. He's gonna kill me for butchering his last name. Browski.
Have you guys played live at all, or is it still just?
We haven't played live yet. We're literally just been working on this, trying to make this like perfect album.
And then as soon as that drops.
As soon as it drops, he's looking to tour.
Yeah.
He knows a lot of people. And that have that make that situation very plausible. So I'm looking forward to that happening. And so we've been doing a ton of work on this. Basically, what's been happening was all the stuff we kind of did, we've been kind of redoing. Now that he's found a band, and because there's nothing like going into the studio with a full band and just sessioning on stuff, and I could only put in so much input, but then Colin could who was like a mastermind, he could say, oh, why don't we just do these chords, and then it becomes a completely different song. So
yeah, so you're also working as a producer on that.
A lot of the stuff I've worked on. I've helped him. There's some songs that he would come to me with a scratch, and idea, and then we would sit down and
kind of work it out.
And now that the whole band's kind of doing it, it's definitely more of when the original song gets done, it's more of a full-blown thing. But there's songs where it's just like, one of the songs was like it was Down by the River. He did it was more kind of like a kind of upbeat kind of two-feel thing. I was just like, no, this needs to be like, like Al Green, and that's the way it is now. And we just literally recorded horns on the track yesterday.
That's awesome.
So it's like it's been a very, very, very interesting thing, because we've also gotten into vinyl, so we'll go down to the record store and we'll check out all these records, and it's like sitting around you gotta do your homework, man.
Yeah, totally.
You gotta know what you're talking about when you're telling somebody, what to play. And so it's been a very good experience learning all that stuff.
When do you think the album's gonna be ready?
Soon. I mean, he needs to. We got Dean Buck. I'm gonna give a shout out to Dean Buck. Called him, and he wrote a string arrangement for one of the songs. So
awesome.
We're just tying up a few odds and ends. Maybe gonna do some horns on one or two more songs. Craig Dreyer, who's been working as our engineer over at Mighty Toad Studios, great saxophone player, great blues rock horn player. He's been working on pulling together horn section for us, and so we did some tracking yesterday. We might do a few more. We're gonna get Dean's string arrangement recorded.
How many strings? Is it just a quartet, or?
Yeah, just a quartet. We might do a little studio magic or something.
Yeah,
in
make
there.
it sound.
Just kind of tying up a few things. Got everything needs to be. I think all the tracks are done, minus a few maybe guitar overdubs, vocal overdubs, and stuff like that, and just getting like those final horns and strings down, mixed and mastered, pressed, and then dropped. So should be hopefully by end of March or something. We should be dropping that. So right before the summertime, baby. So
nice little summer tour.
Yeah, so that's been taking up a lot of my time, but very, very into it. The music's good. Super involved in that, and the greatest thing is Mark Hughes very open. Even though it's his music, he's very open to outside opinion, and he knows when to say, no, that's not where I'm going, but when he realizes that this could be great, he's totally down and 100% committed to doing it. So respect to him. The albums should be great.
Yeah, so let's move on now. And you've been playing a lot with the Gold Magnolias.
Yeah.
Around town, but also on the road.
On the road.
So how did that all come into play?
That came into play. Tenor player Ryan Anselmi hooked me up with that. He was trying to get me in there with those guys for a while, and then one day they were just in a pinch, and he hit me up on like a Wednesday. It was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and the gig was at Shrine. The first gig I ever played with these guys was at Shrine. This was back in August. And he said, come by and grab the album. And they gave me an album, and I learned all the tracks in like 2 days and played the gig with him, rehearsed with him for like an hour.
Wow.
On the day of, and went through and just and nailed the first hit. And then the next day they were like, can you do this and this and this? And I was like, yeah. I think the second thing I ever did with him was record a track with him in a studio. And then I was fortunate that they just kept calling me, and then they had a room in their apartment open up, and I was playing with them when I was couch surfing. The first night that I played with them, that was one of the nights that I had to stay out on the street that night. I went to the bar and killed a bunch of time, then I went to Good Stuff Diner, got breakfast, and then I went and slept on the Highline Park.
I had heard about that. Why didn't you call me or something?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard being when you're trying to couch surf when you're afraid of being a burden to everybody.
But come on, no one's gonna let you sleep.
Well,
out on the
hey,
Highline.
That's something I can put in my biography now.
Yeah.
But
I guess there is always that.
So they had a room open up, and I moved in with those guys.
Are you still living over there?
Still living over there. So I've been and we went on a tour through Louisiana, Austin. Kind of went like a deep south swing through. Right. I love the way you just kind of followed my. You're just like, oh yeah,
right into the camera.
Yeah, that was fun. Went out there.